Welcome to the Queer Thriving Podcast, where we draw inspiration from the past, cultivate thriving in the present, and dream boldly of a better future. Hi, I'm Kari. Any pronouns work for me? I'm glad you're here. The future is crashing into us constantly as the present. It never slows down or gives us a moment to not be pushed forward in time, marching inexorably forward toward whatever the future has in store. The bad news is, in difficult times, when we are digging in our heels against the relentless onslaught of time progression, it feels awful to be subject to the iron will of time. But when things are good, when we are excited and optimistic, we swim toward the future eagerly and celebrate as it warms from a glow on the horizon into the full light of the present moment. Time is an odd thing. Jose Esteban Munoz paints heteronormativity as a march along linear time, ruled by cultural expectations of marriage, reproduction, and death. In his book, Cruising Utopia, he paints a picture of heteronormativity as a present-oriented worldview, which upholds existing systems and cultural expectations. Queerness, on the other hand, he imagines as being more future-oriented. Not that queer people can never live in the present, or always have to have hope in a better future, but more that there is this dynamic flexibility and movement inherent in queerness that dares to dream of what is on the horizon and is always oriented toward what is possible. Queerness, according to Munoz, is exactly that, a horizon, something inherently not yet here, something utopian. This confused me a bit at first. Queer people are here and living full and wonderful lives in the now. What could it possibly mean to say that queerness is not yet here in some fundamental way? This is how he describes this concept. He says, "Queerness is not yet here. Queerness is an ideality. Put another way, we are not yet queer. We may never touch queerness, but we can feel it as the warm illumination of a horizon imbued with potentiality." Munoz's writing is very philosophical, so I'll give you my best understanding of what he means here. Queerness must be inherently critical of the present, because queerness is what is outside the norms of a culture, whether that's about sexuality, gender, or any other piece of identity. Queerness is, inherently queer or odd or different. It is defined by what it contrasts, which means it must be critical of the present. And since it does not accept the present as the way things should continue to be, then it must point us to the future. As long as there is queerness, as long as there are people made to feel othered, then queerness must be a light on the horizon that entices us forward. That doesn't mean that pieces of that future are totally out of our reach. Just as the world may grow brighter as dawn draws nearer, so too can we move toward the bright light of the future in real and tangible ways, step by step. I think the thing he is warning against in his book, to some degree, is complacency. We shouldn't set goals like achieving marriage equality as an end to the fight. It is a fight to win, and certainly is a great victory in those places where it exists. But that doesn't mean that people should think, once that's done, the work is done. To me, it seems like heteronormativity has a narrative of hoping that each new change that queer people bring about is enough, because it seeks to continue to exist as unchanged as it possibly can. The larger cultural question to queer people may be, when will it be enough for you? And it seems to me that as long as it is enough for you, and not an us, it can never be enough. I'm not saying that in the future everyone must be queer, but I am saying that unless the larger cultural forces should start to ask, when will how we treat people be good enough for us? We aren't done. This means that instead of positioning queerness as an oppositional force to the culture at large, it could incorporate it as a guiding light for the future. We see in many arenas of life, the cultural narrative is that how we are treating people is good enough. For example, if someone is unhoused, there seems to be a certain cultural complacency with supporting systems that make that person's life even more difficult. Hostile architecture makes it impossible for people to find places to rest because there are artistic spikes installed in the pavement or armrests in the middle of park benches. Emergency shelters have barriers for entry like expecting sobriety, income, or requiring a valid ID. Don't get me wrong, many people are not satisfied with how things are for people experiencing homelessness. But if we as a society had decided that we were not satisfied with how we treat people who are experiencing this, then there is no question that the situation would be extremely different. In this way, queerness is aligned with fighting for all causes of justice, for pushing for the better treatment of human beings. You personally don't have to make this happen alone. In fact, the only way we can make change is together. You personally do not have to take up every cause and work yourself to the bone because the fight against injustice is never ending. It isn't all just on the backs of queer people to do everything. That is absolutely not what I'm saying. I'm saying that queerness as a concept, as an ideal, points us in this direction of betterment. I'm saying that the more we can share that vision of queerness as something to move toward on the horizon, the more we as a society can unite together for justice. The vision of queerness as not yet here is a vision that should invigorate us, as we are a part of a movement that is dynamic and full of color and light. So why does this matter? Why did I just spend all this time talking to you about queerness as a future reality, and then said some weird things about time and justice? Fair question. There are three main reasons I'm talking to you about all this. The first thing is, I want you to understand the power that queerness has on a culture. It gives us tools to see limitations in the present that heteronormativity is blind to. It allows us to take a step back and to, for example, say, wait a minute, this gender binary stuff isn't an accurate description of the human experience at all. The next thing I want to convey is how important intersectionality is. This vision of queerness contains within it the immense force of understanding how power structures interact with each other to affect people and give them unique insights into building a future we can be proud of. The final reason is to give you a sense of hope. Hope not just that the future will be better, but that queerness must be part of dreaming up a future that works for everyone. That individuality, though it has its place, must give way to a more communal definition of thriving in our society, because we use queerness as a compass to guide us. You don't have to worry about the people who ask, when is it enough? You got marriage equality, is that enough? What about changing your gender on documents easily? Is that enough? As if we were searching for some plateau to reach and settle for. Nope. We don't need to stop or settle. We can dream big, because the big, scary, gay agenda is imagining a better, richer future for all people and working to make it a reality. Until next time, keep resisting, keep dreaming, and keep thriving.